All right. That was awesome. And I did not personally request Jock Jams as our intro music, but kudos. I'm going to say that was Bethany who did that. So that was great. Thank you all for being here. Most of you should know me, but if you don't, I'm Mark Sandig. I'm the team leader at KW Legacy Group. And you are here because you want to sharpen your sword, period, but also specifically as it relates to converting internet leads. So if that does not resonate with you, or if you were here for the health insurance webinar, then sorry, you're in the wrong place. That'll be on later today. Quick note is if you know someone that should be here that isn't on here, with Zoom, you can share the link, you can copy it, and you can text it out really easily. So we'd love to have a friend that you think should be on here that isn't, because this is an area where a lot of people tend to struggle. So take a second, grab that link, text it out while we get started. So as an intro, part of my job is I meet with agents and I talk about what ails them in their business. And where do I get leads? Or where do I get more leads? Or all I get are crap leads? Are some of the common phrases that I hear. Gary Keller will say in The Millionaire Real Estate Agent that when you're in this business, you're in the lead generating business. And so failing to have a plan as it relates to leads is not an option if you want to stay sustained in this business. Today's conversation focuses on internet leads. Many of you, and most of you don't have your cameras on, so I'm going to ask you to, if you're able to put your cameras on, that makes the experience for those of us who are talking far better because we can talk to real faces. Thank you. Thanks, Joel. It's good to see your smiling face. Hey, Brent. Many of you run more sphere-based businesses. Hey, I work with people who know, like, and trust me, which is not a bad way to run business. Those people, you don't have to convince them that you know something. You don't have to convince them to like you or trust you as often. But the internet lead game is a different game, and we're going to be diving into that today. Today's conversation is not a conversation around should I do internet leads or should I do SOI? It's not an either-or conversation. The answer to that question is yes. And the best lead gen plans, systems have 3, 4, 5, 7 sources. So my hope is that you leave this conversation hearing from some people who really know what they're doing, encouraged that you can do it too, and maybe you've picked up a tip or two to help you do it at a higher level. We will be taking questions along the way. I prefer a far more conversational format to a strictly scripted one. So bring it, drop it in the chat. But I'm also going to ask for ahas at the end because I like to know that people have learned something. That always makes it a better experience. So with that, I would love to introduce you all to the Melissas. I've never taught a class before with 2 people who share a name. So we're all doing something new here. But yeah, Melissa Sanford, why don't you go first? Tell us about you, your background as it relates to real estate, the type of business that you run now, and anything else that you might like for our folks to understand. Kaufman, same questions for you in a minute.
We're going to have to go by last names today, like no doubt. Okay, so I moved to Ohio from upstate New York about 12 years ago now. And I only knew the 2 people that I moved to this state with. I had no idea I was going to be a realtor until my realtor talked me into it. And so I knew nobody. And I started my career spending $135 a month on leads, and that got you quite a bit of leads back in 2013. And so I had to learn how to perfect that because that's the only source of business that I had, right? I work primarily in Wayne County, and for people that don't know Wayne County, it is like the good old boys club. I was told by multiple agents that I would never succeed because I wasn't from here. And so hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. That's great. Tell us a little bit about your scope and scale of your business and team now. Is it just you, and did you sell one house last year, or is it more than you, and did you sell more than one house?
So we are a team of 5 agents, a licensed executive assistant, a transaction coordinator, an inside sales agent. And we sold about 150 houses last year. I'm sorry, I don't know this number.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. More than one, and a lot of whom, and we'll talk more soon, but a lot of which were internet-based leads. So
Mhm.
credibility established.
Thanks.
Kaufman, how about you?
Yeah, so I was originally in teaching. I was a teacher for 10 years, and that's where I had gotten my degree and was spending all of my time and energy. And then about 5 years ago, I decided to get into real estate. I originally joined a team. And then after about 18 months, I said, you know what, I think I'm going to go on my own. And organically, a team came with me. I wasn't anticipating being a team leader, but it organically continued to grow. So now we've fluctuated anywhere from 6 to 10 agents. I've had a team for three and a half years now. Our sales have been anywhere from 20 million to 35 million, doing 80 to 150 transactions, kind of depending on where we're at for the year. And honestly, the agents on my team and how hungry they are and how hard they want to work. And so it's been a journey for sure as a team lead, and where our business is coming from, and a learning curve, and it's been an amazing experience so far.
Awesome. I'll keep with you, Kaufman, and then we'll jump back to Sanford. Talk with me about the role that internet leads play in your business. What percentage of your business, how much of your world is dedicated to internet-based business?
Yeah, so we have obviously a few different lead sources. My team runs typically about 50% SOI and then 50% leads. And those leads come from a few different sources. Because internet leads tend to be the least expensive, we have the most amount of leads coming in from internet. They take a little longer to convert. So we just did bring on an ISA a few months ago, an inside salesperson, and then the agents as well. So right now, about 30% of our business is coming from the internet leads.
Cool. How about you, Sanford?
So when I talk about online leads, I'm talking about Zillow, Realtor, and Opcity. Realtor and Opcity are two different things. Last year, 62% of our buyer business came from those lead sources, and then this year so far, 61%.
Almost 2/3. Those are both really big numbers. And
yeah, Mark, I didn't include Zillow. I guess I was thinking a direct call. I didn't include Zillow or Opcity in with those. So if you were there, it would be closer to 50%.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, that's a helpful differentiator. So when we talk about internet leads, not all are created equal, and not all are the same. I don't have we're not doing any presentations today, but if we think on a continuum, and here, the nearest end of the continuum is the sale. Okay, boom. But before the sale, there is time. And the average internet lead, which includes everything that these ladies just shared, takes 18 months to convert. But those are dramatically different depending on the lead source. Zillow is going to be a shorter time horizon. Google pay-per-click ads are going to be a longer time horizon. It's not a question of which one is right. It's a question of speed to convert and cost per lead at the end of the day. Talk with me. We talk about, you're either in a skill market or you're in a speed market. Internet leads are different than people who know you. If someone, Great Aunt Joan calls you, says, "Sweetheart, I'd love for you to come and list my house," that's a very different type of skill and conversation. Talk with me about the speed component. When you get an internet-based lead, which we'll define either as a dial-in or as an inbound lead on your app, et cetera. Talk with me about standards that you have as it relates to speed. Either one of you.
I'll jump in. So mine are set that the agents have 4 minutes to respond to the lead. Within 4 minutes, if they don't, it goes to the next agent and they can't even access it anymore. Typically, studies have shown within the first 5 minutes, you're going to have the most conversion. So I have it set up for 4 so that if they don't hit it, it's already going to hit the second agent within that 5-minute mark. After that, it goes directly to my inside salesperson. So they're set on a rotation, but that time, even between 5 and 10 minutes, is the difference between maybe having a conversation with that internet lead and having no conversation. Now, obviously, Zillow, the ones that are direct calls are much different. So these are just, a lead that hits their phone. They have the ability to claim it and then immediately make a phone call. My standard is that the first contact is a phone call. It's not a text message. So if you're unavailable to make a phone call right then don't claim the lead. And our system that we use logs the calls. So I know whether or not they've made a phone call versus a text message. If they don't get in contact with them through a phone call, then the next step is a text and then follow up with an email.
I can deduce why, but why don't you tell us why you expect a phone call as your first move?
Well, because it's building a relationship and a rapport. More than likely, that lead has probably submitted on more than one platform. So they will have more than one agent coming. And the way the internet leads work with some platforms, it could go out to more than one agent at a time. So I want to be the first one to have a conversation, try to make a connection and set an appointment. Doing that through text message, one, is not as timely. I can get that done in just 30 or 45 seconds versus a text going back and forth. And if you're sending a text, I promise you there's an agent who's calling.
Yeah.
And they're more likely to make a connection and confirm the appointment and the appointment stay through a conversation than through just a text message.
Yep. Sanford, how about you? Standards as it relates to speed of response?
So most of our leads are like the Zillow, the Realtor, the Opcity, Redfin. You have to click them to claim them. So those leads just go out to all the agents on the team, and if they win it, they win it. The ones that are like the internet, like the Google pay-per-click and things like that, our AI database takes care of that for us. And so when a home light lead comes in or a Redfin lead, you have to click it and then it calls the person. 9 times out of 10 times out of 10, they're not going to answer the phone anyway. So we call, no answer, follow up with a text, but in that text, we're trying to set a call. And we make jokes about like their phone blowing up. Like, we know that you had no idea that your phone was going to ring by 152 realtors when you clicked on home light, but and then, we kind of make jokes about it. So.
So bottom line is it's got to be fast. and some of it depends on the format or the platform that you're tapping into. Let's just use Opcity as an example, because many of us are signed up for Opcity. If you don't respond in like 11 seconds, you're probably not getting that lead, because it's a Shark Tank model that's a number of agents have access to. And if you're not there, I've had agents say like, hey, my phone isn't as updated as it should be, and so I feel like I'm not getting it fast. But bottom line, if you're not in a position to respond quickly, then you're not in a position to win at the end of the day. And I love, Kaufman, what you said about the importance of making real connection. Going from there, because like if we think about all of the capital that we have in the bank, so to speak, with someone who already knows, likes, and trusts us. They know who we are. They know what they can expect from a relationship, at least. We don't have to earn so many things, but with an internet lead, you don't represent any of that to them, right? So many agents are saying, oh, I just love helping people. I just love helping people's dreams come true. And the person who's clicking their interest in that house is not looking for someone to make their dreams come true. They're looking for someone to help them see that house. So let's talk about building rapport, which you guys have already touched on. How do you open the door? So Kaufman, I'll start with you, since you said you're going for the phone call first. Talk with me how you're looking for that first phone call to happen.
Yeah, initially, like you said, the first thing they want to do is get directly to the point. They submitted an inquiry. Now we're calling them. They want to set, our goal is to set an appointment. It's not to know whether or not they're pre-approved, or I start the conversation about, oh, hi, I see you're looking at 123 Main Street. Tell me a little bit about your home buying process. I'm looking up the property right now. So what that does is that gives me a little lead time to look up the property. In addition, it leaves a pause for them to start telling me their story. A lot of times, if I leave the questions open-ended, they'll give me more than enough information. Of course, sometimes you'll have people who are really short and they're like, well, we just started. But they may say, oh, we just started, my fiance and I are looking because we're going to have 2 kids and now we need something bigger. And I'll do some follow-up questions. They're waiting on something from me at that point. And so they're willing to participate. As soon as I say, hey, okay, at the end, I'm going to say, what's your availability look like as far as taking a look at this property? Oh, we're available tomorrow at 3:00. Perfect. I'll meet you there. The appointment's set. As soon as the appointment is set, they're going to want to get off the phone. So leaving that lead time in between while I say, oh, I'm looking up the property. What interested you about this property? Is it the number of bedrooms? Is it the location? Is this the price point you want to buy in? As soon as the appointment's set, they're like, great, fantastic. We'll see you tomorrow. Along the way, I'm trying to make any personal connections that I can make, whether that's a personal, something that we can connect on. Oh yeah, I love that area. I go to the gym there, or something personal that I can connect with what they're telling me. Especially kids is easy because I'm in the same phase where I have kids and an expanding family. So anywhere that I can make a personal connection so that when we show up tomorrow, they feel like they've already connected a little bit. And then once we get to the house, then we'll have a more in-depth conversations about their financing, how important a pre-approval is, and just a real quick buyer's consult.
Okay, I'm going to circle back on that, but I want to hear Sanford's answer to how are you building rapport? What questions are you asking? Do you have a magical wand that you wave in order to get them to love you? How are you building rapport?
So we get when do you want to see the house? And so usually it's in 5 minutes. And so we're like, well, if we can't get the seller to approve the showing that quick, what's your second pick? So, and then same thing as her, we're looking up the property, or we're not because we're driving. But while I do that, tell me a little bit about where you're at in your home search. Are you just getting started, or have you looked at other homes before? And so that's going to tell you, I just got on Zillow for the first time. I've been out looking at houses with other agents. I've only gone to open houses. And so depending on what they say there, we also ask about the pre-approval process. And that script is like, have you sat down with a lender for your pre-approval yet? Or are you going to need our help with that? Because we don't want it to be, well, if you haven't sat down with a lender, we're not going to meet you. Because our team's policy is we're one free showing so we can get in front of them.
Yes.
If they're not pre-approved, we're going to help them. We also touch on like whatever platform, OpCity, Realtor, Zillow, HomeLight. I also tell them like, hey, you're going to get a ton of people reaching out to you, probably a bunch of loan officers. Do not go online and just submit all your info. Wait until we meet, and I'm going to get you the names of some good locally trusted lenders. And I'll see you tomorrow.
That's brilliant. Because you're absolutely right. Like when someone submits their info somewhere, you're not the only person that's reaching out to them. And so if you're kind of guiding them, not dictating, but guiding them towards, hey, you're going to be bombarded, but you're best served by helping me to connect you with someone local who knows what they're doing. That you're showing your value already in a different way. I love that. Let's talk. So you built rapport. You've agreed to go see the house tomorrow at 2, whatever. I want to talk 2 angles before you've actually had the chance to meet with them. Angle number 1 is safety. If Great Aunt Joan calls and wants you to show her a home, you know that she's a good person. If some random dude named Robert fills out a form and answered a call, you don't know that he's friendly. Talk with us about safety. How are you protecting yourself and not putting yourself in a uncomfortable situation?
I carry a 9mm. And we also have this great tool called Forewarn. That, you guys should be looking everybody up. If you don't, you're silly. And then we have safety procedures, of course, while we're at the showings for the people that don't carry guns.
Yep. No, that's great. Yeah, and that's one of those like freebies. Like if you're not already signed up for Forewarn, press pause and go do it right now. I feel like every 2 weeks I hear a story of someone saying like, yeah, someone weird, and I looked it up, and turns out I'm glad that I didn't go and meet with them. I don't say that to spook you as much as to encourage caution, because not everyone out there is a valid buyer who wants to actually see that house. So be careful. All right. Safety PSA aside, what are you doing then to ensure that they show up? So if they don't know you, they're not invested in you, they're not pre-approved, their odds of no showing you are going to be much higher than someone that you know. Talk with me about follow-up from the initial point of contact to the actual first appointment to increase the likelihood that they're actually showing.
We try to set the appointment as quickly as possible. So there's not a lot of time in between when we talk to them. If it's a few days out, more than likely somebody's going to come up, they're going to cancel. So we try to set it within 24 hours. We're going to go take a look at this property. In addition, I let them know, okay, I'm going to take a look and see what we have. We may have some off-market properties that you haven't seen on the MLS. I would love to bring those tomorrow and talk about those as well, that our brokerage has or other agents have that are not listed. Then they're a little more enticed to be like, even if this one doesn't work, she may have other ones that would work for what we need. And then we always send a confirmation to a few hours before the appointment to say, hey, we're all set for 3 o'clock. Are we still good for this time? We'll see you then.
That's good. I like offering some added value to help them feel more, frankly, more indebted to you. More, oh, she's actually looking to bring me a certain type of value. How about you, Sanford?
So once we get off the phone, and we tell them like, we're going to text you so you have our information. So when we get off the phone, we should just recap. We're going to meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. at 123 Main Street. I look forward to meeting you there. I drive a black SUV. What kind of vehicle do you have? And that just like gets just a conversation flowing. And that's pretty much what we do. And, of course, we're so excited to meet you and help you with your home buying journey, all that good, fluffy stuff.
Sounds like it's mainly a couple of text touch points to build rapport, strengthen likelihood.
And then a reminder, if you're going 10 minutes from if you're going over 10 minutes from your house, which we do a lot, you should be letting them know like, hey, I'm going to check in with you tomorrow morning just to make sure everything's good, or the next day, I'm just like looking forward to our appointment at 2. I'll see you there. We don't really like give them a question like, are you still good to meet? Because we don't want to give them an out.
Yeah, no, that's good. What's the question I want to ask here? How much is too much? Can you over badger someone? So say you don't set it for later this afternoon, you set it for 3 days out. How much is too much with regards to checking in before you actually meet with them?
I would say if it's a few days out, I mean, you're going to be able to set a reminder. Sometimes, depending on how confident, if the ISA set the appointment versus an agent, I may have them confirm the day before, just send a reminder, reminding you we have an appointment, we're going to meet tomorrow at 3. The biggest concern, especially with the buyer, is how likely is the property to still be available in 3 days? Yeah. So I am pushing, we need to see this today or tomorrow. If not, there's a chance if the property is not available, that's where we may lose the client anyways, because they're going to say, oh, it's already under contract, don't worry about it. And then the follow-up after that gets more difficult as far as whether or not they see another property and are they going to contact me or go back onto the platform and put in another inquiry. So at that point, we for sure let them know, I can show you any property. If this isn't it, I try to have if they're a couple days out, have a backup property that maybe just hit the market. You know what, I just saw this one, it's a little bit outside your area, but I think it's a great idea if we go take a look at it, just to get a firm idea of exactly what you're looking for.
Yes.
If I can get them into another property, the most important is I want that face-to-face with them.
Yep.
So however I get it, if that's not, why don't you come into my office? Let's grab a coffee and let's talk about how the process works, any questions, and off-market deals. And I'll put that out there again. I want a face-to-face.
I love that. So you are both advocating for a, let's get in front of them. I want to build face-to-face rapport, and I want to do it as soon as possible. Because face-to-face is going to be better. They're going to know, like, and trust me sooner. And the odds of someone else jumping in and supplanting their relationship are lower. So we talked on our prep call about ALM and LP Mama. So ALM is appointment, location, motivation. Okay, let's set the appointment. Where is it, and why are you looking to do this? Talk with me then. Okay, so they showed up. This is a buyer from some online lead source. They show up. You see the house. They're not going to write a house on, an offer on this house right away. Talk with me about the questions you're asking. What are you making sure that you learn about them? How are you establishing rapport now that you're face-to-face?
So we have a whole buyer packet that they're pre-made, they're ready to go. They don't really, maybe the graphics change, but the information doesn't change too much. And you have to really know their personality type, because some people are going to want you to go through every single page and other people are going to want you to hand it to them. So, I think a good question for that is like, okay, maybe house isn't for you because, the bathroom is really small. And so what I've gathered is you want a really big bathroom or whatever. Like, I think the more you can ask them questions instead of telling them, or, I don't know, there's certain things you need to tell them, right? Like, you should get pre-approved with a lender. Like, we're going to do that next time. Of course, we have to go over the consumer guide. Of course, we have to go over buyer agency agreements, that kind of stuff. But other than that, like, we should be asking questions to get as much information as we can from them. Because there's nothing that a buyer likes more than, say Melissa showed a buyer 2 weeks ago and then they set another appointment for today. And she's like, oh, how's your dog Fido doing? Last time we met, you said your dog wasn't feeling that good or what. Like, they love that. And so we just keep a little note, like, on the inside of our folders, and, put that in our database so that even if a lead gets passed off to another agent for whatever reason, hopefully they could have that little tidbit of fluff.
How about you, Kaufman?
Yeah, so for me, it's a combination of getting to know them and, like, if anybody additional comes to the showing, what's important to them, values, trying to make connections and alignment between just core values, what they're willing to share. The other thing is I see that 10 or 15 minutes as like a mini interview for me. So, because if they call somebody else and somebody else shows them the house, I want them to remember what our showing was like and how different they were, and that I'm educated, that I have value of what's happening in the market. So we do a summary sheet of neighborhood stats, and what that looks like as far as like the average days on market, the sale price versus list price, which then always leads into a good conversation of why the pre-approval is so important and what the market looks like as far as how likely are they to get something that's above list or below list, and what a competitive offer would be. Because then for a lot of people, like, if they come in thinking, oh, well, we're going to just offer $20,000 less, and I have the area stats saying, you know what, they're selling within about 5% of list price, that sets us up for when we are ready to write an offer, they have a very realistic view of what this is going to look like. And then the other thing is, so there's a program that one of our lenders uses where they can pull a property, any property that's listed on the MLS, and then they can project what the equity is going to be like in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So it's a great tool as far as like if we were going to have to go above list price in order to win the property, but it also pushes how important home ownership is. And hey, maybe this isn't the property, but something in this price point with a 20% return in 5 years, homeowners like to see that they're going to be making money off of the property. And I've just gotten the feedback, oh, this is really cool. We've never seen this from anybody else. Nobody else has been able to provide this. And that's a value add for me. So I look at it as kind of, I want to get to know you, but this is a mini interview on me too. So why should you use me versus anybody else?
Yes. No, I love what you're saying there. I think so many of us say, "Oh, I'm not in this for the transactions. I'm in this for the relationships." And we have our touchy-feely things that we like to say about why we're in real estate. But the way that we approach these sorts of appointments often are not that way. It's, well, would you like to write an offer? Like, I think we try to get to the point. And sometimes, I mean, I don't have the statistic on what percentage of first homes showed to internet leads get written on. But you're absolutely right, Melissa's, that it's about the relationship, and it's about proving that you're the agent that they want to work with, regardless of whether this is the home or not. So bringing a little extra something, whether it's a killer packet or whether it's a sheet that's got information that they haven't seen before, that's going to be an interaction that they're far more likely to remember, which I think is fantastic. Let's talk. So they like you. You've had a good kind of oh, actually, sorry, I'm interrupting myself. How do you set the expectation that you want to have a little bit of a consultative conversation? So some people just want to see the house and then they want to go on about their day, but you're saying, hey, I'd love to be able to have a little bit more of a conversation so that I can show my value. Are you priming the pump before the meeting? Hey, let's linger afterwards, or what are you using to help them slow down for 15 minutes while you have a little bit more of a consultative conversation?
I don't prep them for that. It's just the expectation of this is what we do when we walk into the first house, because we have to have the consumer guide signed, right? So, when we're, and I'll usually get there 15 minutes early. I'll unlock the door, I'll turn the lights on, and then I'll go sit in my car. I'll wait in the driveway so that I can meet them in the driveway and I can let them know, like, hey, I have a whole packet of information here. We're not going to go over all of it, but there's some stuff that we have to go over. It's required by law. And then we're going to look at the house. And so you kind of like dangle the prize in front of them, like, yeah.
I like it. Anything to add to that, Kaufman?
Yeah, I use it as a method to, almost like a protection thing too, right? So if they're not willing to like even sit and chat about the consumer guide and things like that beforehand, I throw it out as, we've never met before. I want to make sure, you know exactly how I work and what your guys' intentions are, because I would never want to walk into a house with somebody I've never met and be caught off guard with something. Like, it's a safety thing. You would never want to send your daughter into a house with a stranger. And they're like, oh my gosh, no. Like we definitely want to, we're serious buyers, all of that. And then we just go through the consumer guide. It's something very quick, but it's a way to give validity to the fact that I need to have a conversation with you before we just walk in this house. I just talked to you for 30 seconds on a phone call, and they're always more than willing if they feel, like as a safety issue or something like that. You don't know me and I don't know you, so let's just chat for a couple of minutes. This is a required form by law. We need to sign the consumer guide. Here's my card. They should know who I am too before they walk into a house.
Yeah. It's
a lot of times they'll have kids, and so I do more of that too. Like, I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable, and I don't want to just walk in with somebody I've never met before.
I like that. So you've met, they've decided not to write an offer on that home. There aren't any other homes available to show that day. Their urgency is not super high. So this is a, it's a crossroads moment where you're getting ready to shake hands and say goodbye. Talk with me about your nurture plan beyond that first appointment.
My next steps, if I can, would be to set an office appointment.
Okay.
So we looked at this house. This one isn't the right for you. So can we meet on Saturday morning or Saturday? What time works for you in the next couple of days? Let's get into my office. We're going to set up a search so you can see exactly how the criteria works. Review the market of the areas you want to look in. How can we write the most competitive offer so we're ready when you're ready? Do you want me to have a lender come? They can take your application in person, or we could do it through link. I'm trying to set an in-office meeting and get an EBA signed, an exclusive buyer's agency at that point. If they're still kind of browsing, then more than likely they are, if they're not in a huge hurry, they're happy to sit down and kind of talk about what they want to do. For them, I sell it like this is the biggest investment you're ever going to make. Who goes in and spends hundreds of thousands of dollars without at least talking about what this looks like for you? How does this fit in your plan? What's your dreams as a family? What's your journey look like? Nobody's going to drop $200,000 without at least having those conversations. And they're like, yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. I go, before you even go look at a car, you talk about, all of that. This is a huge investment on your part. I want to make sure that I'm a part of that and you fully know what the process is going to be.
I love that. Sanford?
We tend to do most of that at the first showing. We don't do like a 2-part appointment, and I'm afraid if we did, like, sounds like I need to call Kaufman after this, but I think the conversion would go down more because it's a 2-part appointment. I don't know if they would meet in the office or on a Saturday. Maybe they would, but we go over all the things that she says. We just have really worked that into, because a lot of times you get one shot, and we're typically setting them up on the search before we even get to the showing, so it'll come through our CRM. And if not, by the time we leave the showing, what we have their criteria, and we're going to set them up on one as soon as we get back home.
Yeah. So you
I was going to say one thing. So Melissa, when you do that, I was thinking more of like someone who is not like, oh, I want to see the next house or we're ready to go tomorrow, but they have a little lag time. Are you able to get the EBA signed on that first appointment, like an exclusive buyer's agency agreement? Because I guess that's why I really try to push meetings so that I can really dig in deeper to get that signed. I'm curious if you guys are able to get it there.
Well, have we been able to get a non-official buyer loyalty agreement signed? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it going to be tougher to get the new buyer agency agreement signed? Sure. But the one we have, it's really soft. It's
Okay.
softer than the consumer guide.
That's a really good pre-conversation as we think about the changes that are happening, that what has been a soft conversation is about to be firmer. And so as you think through your approach and how much do you kind of grease the skids for that first appointment, and when do you introduce that document? Important thoughts that we don't need to have all the answers to today, but we're wise to consider. So you've done that. You've set them up on the search. We realize other agents could be getting in touch with them and establishing rapport at this time. Like, talk with me about kind of the mid to long-term nurture plan, acknowledging that there's lots of internet leads that aren't going to be writing business right away.
So our agents really focus on the A and the B buyers, like the first class or the exit seat people. And we have that conversation with the buyers. Like, do you want to be on first class? Like, that if a house pops up, we have an exclusive buyer agency agreement signed, you're pre-approved. Like, if a house pops up and you need to see it this afternoon, somebody on my team is going to commit to meeting you there. Because if you do, like, this is what we need to do for that. If I can't tell you how many times people have told me, like, they're holding off or they're going to do this or not do this, and then 5 minutes later they're buying a house.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think it's important to, even if they say that, like, be respectful, but don't turn off the searches. Don't, like, keep reaching out to them. One thing popped in my head too, from appointment set on the phone or whatever to appointment met. I love to share our link of our reviews, especially on the platform that they're on. So if they come from Zillow, I like just resend them. I'm like, here's our team Zillow link, check out our reviews. Also, I have a cute dog. Like, we always try to like make it personal, and always try to add a little humor into it, because I feel so bad for these internet leads. And that's why we don't practice LP Mama with them, because they've already done that to 2 fake people, somebody in the Philippines, no offense. And by the time they get to us, they're like, they just want to go see the house. Just take
Yeah.
them to see the house.
Yeah. Well, and I love the reviews piece because it not only gives you the chance to show credibility, but it also gives you the chance to be more real to them. And the more real and likable and authentic you can become, the more likely that they're going to respond to texts. So yeah, I agree. When all too many, someone says, "Oh yeah, I took this lead, but they're not looking to buy until next year," and I say, "BS." You're not necessarily going to text and call them as with the same message. It may be not be, "Hey, is there anything you've seen today?" You don't want to nag them, and at the same time, you want to maintain frequency of relationship. Hey, I hope you're doing well. It was just out showing in your neighborhood, and it's a high level of engagement, even if you're not forcing houses down their throat if they've told you that they're looking to wait a little bit of time.
And if they're waiting a year, like you guys better be out beating the pavement again in 6 months. Like,
Mhm.
and if you're gonna wait until month 11 to reach out to them, they're already gonna have a new agent and probably be under contract.
What kind of so let's just talk drips for a minute, and this is not like designed to be a CRM specific conversation, but more about the types of value you might send. Okay, you've got them on a search. Are there other things? Hey, you're going to get invited to my client events, or you're going to get invited to my, or you're going to get my monthly newsletter. Like what sorts of more automated pieces are you looking to send to keep them engaged?
All of those, plus like some nurture, like automated nurture drip campaigns through the CRM. It's funny, like when we set them up on a search and they're like, "Oh, you just sent us this house this morning," and I was like, "I did." I always like to I like to have humor in this business because people are so mean. But I said this to you, Mark, like for us to end this relationship, like you're either gonna buy a house with me or one of us is gonna die. Like, and until that happens, like you're gonna hear from me forever.
I think that's so good because at first it might offend them. We're like, wait, what? Gosh. But it's like, no, I'm in it for the long haul. And I think once they get that and feel like, oh, this person, yeah, of course they get paid when I buy or sell homes, but like they're committed to this and they're not going anywhere. The right person's going to respect that. Let's have a brief conversation around crap leads. This is less often going to be the Zillow, hey, your phone's ringing right now sort of lead, but the internet leads, data can be questionable. They may not respond. Like, talk with me about bottom of the barrel quality of leads and how you think about those.
For us, if it's a bad number, if any of the ways to connect with them is valid, if it's an email, you're going to send an email, even if it's a bad number. We have a pond that our like dead leads go into, and then those still get tried again in like 6 months. So, and when I say dead lead, I'm talking like we just have no way to contact them. Like the information's bad, or we had a lead that came in that said these nuts. Okay. Like terrible name.
I
Like
got the same one.
names, like, or
I'm getting ready to
fake
show him
email
this afternoon.
addresses. Those are the only ones that we trash. If they say they have a realtor, like we have a follow-up for that one. If they say, "Oh, we just bought a house, congratulations, that's fantastic. I'd love to send you an annual review of your value each year." And then they're put on something for that. So if it is anything other than false like information or a way to connect them, there is a plan set up and they will still hear from us.
Good. Good. Yeah. Just because someone doesn't answer or because you don't have full information doesn't mean you don't still have an opportunity to become their person.
Right. And like, is there ever really a bad lead? Like, so say you have some form to contact them, like, I think you could probably survey people 18 and over and ask them, like, do you know anybody that's never bought a house in their whole life? Like, and that answer is going to be no. Like, of course, everybody knows one person that's bought a house, right? And so, like, Mark, I'm sorry, that your credit isn't in the best shape right now, and, you're not gonna be ready to buy for the next 2 years, but like, we're still in this together. I'm still gonna be here for you. And who do you know that needs to buy, sell, or invest in real estate?
Yes, absolutely. That's a brilliant segue. When you're in real estate, your client's experience is not just with you, but it's going to be with the title company, a lender, an inspector. There's an array of industries that are attached to ours through their experience. Let's talk about the role of partners as we think about internet lead gen. So, Melissa Sanford, let's stick with you for a second. You've got someone who knows that their credit is terrible, who's like, I'd love to buy, but I'm not in that position. I got a 500 credit score. Home ownership is a pipe dream to me. Talk with me about the role of a good partner in the nurture process for someone that's not yet qualified or in a position to buy.
So a good lender partner specifically is still gonna take the time to meet with them and set them up on this is the roadmap to get you pre-approved as quickly as possible. And then we both kind of check in like, hey, we said if you do this in the first 30 days and you do this, like, how is it going? Do you need any help? I think it's important. There's a lot of lenders out there, unfortunately, that if they can't get pre-approved, they're just like next, next, next. And so you need to partner with somebody who cares as much about your clients as they do you. And a bad partner can really make things go really bad, really fast. So, even title, like last week I was at a house, I was showing a buyer, there was quite questionable shared driveway. I reached out to Stonegate, and like within 10 minutes they had, here's the previous driveway agreement and there's an encroachment, but here's the information. So I was able to like give that to the buyer at that first showing, and they're just like, oh, wow, you got people. Yeah. So
That's huge. I think we don't need to go too deep down that rabbit hole. And if you're a lower producing agent, it's harder to have partners that are as committed. If your team's selling 150 homes a year, it's a little bit easier to say, no, you're I need you to be in my corner and I need you to operate at a certain level. If I'm selling 10 houses a year by myself, it's harder to have that same level of sway. Yet the role of our affiliate partners in supporting our business, not just potentially financially, but also in that nurture process it's an undertapped part of our businesses, I find oftentimes. Kaufman, anything you want to add to that side of the conversation?
Yeah, the partners are huge. We've had a ton of support from the same partners over the years, so I've really gone to bat for them as well. And it's been about the relationship, and title for us is so big because we've had deals with other title companies that I was shocked that that's how they functioned or did business. And overall, I feel like our clients take the entire process and it becomes a reflection of us. So if they had a bad experience with the lender, or they had a bad experience with title, even though they had a great experience with me, they'll be less likely to use me in the future because these are the people that I connected them with. Now on the title, we don't always win title. So I'll say up front, this isn't our preferred title company, or I've never worked with them before. If we run into anything, like we'll keep you informed. We had one title company that closed an entire deal with no escrow letters and had to go back to the seller after we closed and ask for commission. And I was shocked. Like, how did you close deals with no escrow letters? And now you're going to go back to the seller and ask them to give you more money? That's not going to happen. The seller's not going to give you any more money. So, yeah, it's so big.
Yeah, no, that's a really valid.
yeah. I got something real quick to add. Like, if there's new agents on here, or you're not on a team and you guys aren't doing a ton of transactions, like if your lender partner isn't gonna help you as you come up, like you need to find a new one. And I'm sure Mark can help you. I'm happy to help you. Kaufman's happy to help you. Like, you know, whether you do 20 houses a year or 200 houses a year, like you matter and your people matter and your business matters. And Legacy Living, Elevate, like we're all family, right? And so definitely funny thing about a local title company here in Worcester, they closed the property and then they never filed it, and then 2 months later the sellers were getting foreclosure notices. Their credit was pinged. It was really bad. It was bad.
Details. I want to put a little asterisk on the conversation, and then we can open it up for any other general questions from the group. You both have ISAs. For those of you who don't know, an ISA is an inside sales agent whose job is to nurture and help kind of the database convert. When did you reach a point in your business where that made sense for you? Because I'm not going to encourage a brand new agent to go hire an ISA because you need to have a certain level of establishment. But when did that hire make sense for your business?
When your customer service to your clients is starting to suffer because you don't have enough bandwidth, you need leverage.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we just now got an ISA, but the expectation was on the agent. So as a team lead, it runs a little bit differently, because my expectation is if you want to work and do business, you have to follow up with leads. But how many deals are we missing due to ineffective follow-up? And I mean, let's be honest, somebody who does this full time, their conversational abilities and ability to set the appointment is going to be stronger than an agent. Like, agents are good because they're good salespeople. And usually once they're in front of the client, that's where they shine, but they may not have the phone skills. So for me, it became, you know, what opportunities are we missing? Because they're not following up as I would like them to. And the conversations aren't as good, even through lots of scripting practice and all of that. And then we also had reached a point where we had a database of thousands of leads over the years that just never converted. And I was like, okay, yes, my agent could go in and prospect, but most agents don't prefer to prospect. And so it was, okay, can I get somebody in here pretty cost effectively who is an expert in this and can make 200 phone calls in a day and run through our database every few months and see if we can pick up anybody that we've missed?
Yeah. Consistency eats talent for breakfast, right?
Yes.
I think consistency is not the top strength of many of our best agents. So it's not your first hire, but it's a good thing to consider. How might my world benefit from added consistency? And there's a lot of different ways to approach the ISA conversation from a cost standpoint, a model standpoint. We're not going to deep dive on that today, but just did want to put a pin in that. Raymond asked a question in the chat, and then anyone else who wants to either unmute or drop into the chat. He said, how much of the experienced agent changed their methods in light of the new proposed NAR changes to buyer's agents? In my mind, I'm not getting a signed agreement. If I'm getting a signed agreement, or I'm not interested in working with them. Either of you guys or others want to chime in on that?
I think the only thing that's going to change for us is the document that we get the agreement signed on. And, you know, just making sure that they know, you know, this potentially could cost them money, but also like, we're not going to lose a client. You should be getting something in writing, right? And you should be giving the clients, you know, the benefits of having an agent that's committed to you, because if you're just sign calling and you're agent hopping, nobody's going to take the time like and put you in that first class either, right? So, and do you want good, strong representation, or, you know, and we know if you go to the listing agent, like they represent the seller. Like, how can they get the seller the most money for the house and get you the best deal at the same time? Like, is dual agency legal? Absolutely. Is it possible? Sure. Is it really hard? Heck yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yep. Great answer. Other questions? Go ahead, Kaufman.
I was going to say, for us, it's just becoming more imperative. I think once you have had, at least for the agents on my team, once they've had a buyer walk away or use somebody else. And my first question back to them is, do you have an EBA signed with them? And they say no. You have to take responsibility for what you put into it, right? So what value are you providing then? If you can't articulate what your value is, then how good of an agent are you? You have to be able to articulate that. And that's what, with the new regulations, that's what it's going to come down to. Who can explain their value and who can't.
Yep. Totally agree. Who else?
Hi,
Hey, Chad.
question for you on conversations with buyers about lenders. How do you commonly go about giving them their information?
So we have it in our buyer packet. We'll share the app with them, depending if it's booked, if they want to try it before. Some buyers are like, I want to get pre-approved before I look at houses. Some lenders have an app, some have a link. We have lenders in our buyer packets. So that's how we kind of go about that. And, you know, again, I also make jokes with people if they're like, oh, I went and got my pre-approval with Zillow Home Loans. And I'm like, well, you're probably gonna have to find a new agent then, because we're never gonna close. And so yeah, anyway.
With us, so I have a little bit of a different situation where my spouse is actually a lender. So of course we're going to try to use that company, but I always advise how the lending works. So many buyers think that is a standardized process, and it's not. Closing costs are negotiable. Your rate is negotiable, and each lender has different products, and you have to find your best fit. At the end of the day, my job is to sell the house. It is the lender's job to secure them as a client on the lending side. So it's 100%. You want to go, you need 2 estimates, because if you can get your lenders competing against each other, you are going to win 100% of the time. You're going to end up with lower closing costs and a lower interest rate. And if they think that I'm looking out for their best interest financially, they are more likely to trust me on this house and refer me over to friends and family, knowing that I was looking out for them more than just, how do I get you a contract on this house? So I always advise them, get 2 loan estimates, and you want to have your lenders competing for your business, because at the end of the day, that lender is not paying your mortgage for the next 30 years. You are, and you want to come out of it with the best terms possible, just like I'm going to work with you to get the best terms on this property.
Like you've said that before. Who else? Good question, Chad. Chad got licensed
Last week.
today. Yeah. So
Oh, that's exciting.
flying out the
Congratulations.
gates, learning.
Thank you.
You're gonna do great, man.
I appreciate that. It's been a long time coming.
That's right. That's right.
That's exciting.
It's a worthwhile journey. Awesome, folks. Well, Melissa Sanford, Melissa Kaufman, thank you for sharing. I think one of the things I love most about. Oh, go on more.
Yep. Just real quick. It's kind of a little bit outside of the box, but what do you pay your inside salespeople?
It depends on if they live in the US or if they live in a different country.
Okay. Is it like
if
an
you're-
hour? Say it like this. Is it like hourly salary per lead that closes?
It's a hourly or a salary with bonuses for closed deals.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So Tara, I would say I've done both. I've had someone here and someone virtually. And in person, the average, I would say, runs between $15 and $20 an hour, maybe even a little bit more depending on their experience. And then you can set up where they bonus on appointments set and closings. And then virtually, I mean, in the Philippines, it depends on if you go through a company or you just hire independently, and you're looking at anywhere from $5 to $7 an hour. I mean, I had one virtually, he was $11 an hour, but he came with 5 years of experience and was like a head ISA.
Wow.
So I've interviewed through Zoom and then also interviewed in person to try and find the right fit.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And just a brief, you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to speak to it because you're like $5 to $7 an hour. That sounds unethical. It's like, no, it's a different economy there, and that's very fair wages based upon what they're used to. So, I think it's cool. There's pros and cons with domestic versus international, but neither one is right or wrong.
If I could have waved a magic wand when I hired my ISA, or I knew that AI was going to be so big in some of these platforms, like I think AI can probably handle most of it now, in a good CRM. And I've learned this lesson the hard way so many times in my career. Like, be careful how people win, especially like with a virtual. Like, if they get bonus by appointment set, they're just going to set appointments. They're not going to be the good, bad, or ugly. And most of them are going to suck, and they're never going to actually get to the agent. And so just, making sure that you really think about how they're going to win, right? If winning is setting 30 appointments a month, but you only make it to one of those, like, is that a win for you or just for them?
Yeah.
We consider an appointment set that the person showed up, and I will bonus if an EBA is signed from the appointment. So if the ISA can tee up the fact that we're going to talk about doing an EBA and I can get one signed, then they get an additional bonus for that. And then an appointment set would be, we have to actually see them face to face.
You're incentivizing the activity that you want to encourage.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too is the CRM, everybody uses different things, but as far as internet leads go, some CRMs are definitely easier to build up the leads, and they have it like built into the platform where you're like, oh, I want to increase my spend on Google clicks, or I want to increase my spend on Facebook advertising. And I can just increase the spend where I'm not in the system trying to figure out how to do it myself. For me, that's easiest. Some people I know are really tech savvy and can, I just like them to run through the CRM as far as my internet leads go. Now, Zillow is a different platform, and realtor.com, but as far as just a Google click or paid ad.
Good conversation. We're a couple minutes past. Thanks to you both for sharing your experience and your wisdom. I love that about KW, is that we don't need to keep secrets. So thank you for strengthening our culture in that way. I hope all of you have a fantastic Thursday afternoon, and go convert some leads.
Yeah, thanks. If